I haven't seen her. She
The
works.
camera looks really
I haven't seen her.
good on here, actually. Were you, I didn't text somebody.
Someone got on. Or just got on.
Yep, I bet one of them.
Hello, Zoom. Can you guys hear me okay out there?
Yeah, young 20s.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh, she was 2 years younger than my age. Oh, my. Two years from retirement.
Hello, Zoom. Can you guys hear me out there on Zoom?
Oh, so can they talk loud?
I've got it turned up pretty good. Can you hear this? If we do this, is that okay? That's good. Okay. Tori's having trouble connecting on Zoom. Hello, Zoom. Can you guys hear me okay out there?
I'm guessing that they can.
Everyone thinks someone else is responding. It doesn't matter, you know, this work session, like unless they're trying to talk, that, you know,
Tori.
yeah, we can do a better tech check at 7. It's part of the meeting. I don't know.
Is there another pencil I could use?
Here you go. How about a pen?
I'm so discombobulated. I'm embarrassed. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Hello, Zoom. Can you guys hear me okay out there? Anyone on Zoom?
Yep, me.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good.
All right.
We're early. We want to go ahead and get started on the work session stuff.
I was going to start out with the committee prioritization project that we did, and I've got all that to project. But first, an important announcement today is Mayor Dixon's birthday. Happy birthdays are in order. Sorry, I had to do it.
It's better.
Oh, there you go. Okay. This came back from Chair David Douglas. He wrote a statement here that will elaborate a bit. Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee felt that all their priorities were top priorities. And just kind of gave it back to the board. If there wasn't enough funding or if something didn't make the cut, that's back for us. Whoa, sorry about that. Here's Park Rec and Trails. Friends of You Pass was top priority. Second priority, matching funds for hotel park beautification. Number 3 was the Trail Ambassador Program. Number 4, trail signage and cleanup. Number 5 was miscellaneous, of course. Planning Commission, we had number 1, funding to support department and procedural development. And then the 2 other categories were tied for second place. I can shuffle around or try to split screen or something, so I can see them all at once if that helps. Or
Are any of these items not included in the budget?
So what I'd like to do next is our next activity is I'd like to bring up our budget and kind of compare within our proposed budget where these items are being accommodated and then identify any that are not. And then we will need to see if they are either capital or operational expenses and where we can make adjustments to incorporate them. Sound good? Any, okay,
Yes, please.
okay, perfect.
Sounds good.
Bo, do you wanna either pull up the budget worksheet itself? So
is that
in
the
here,
Excel doc that you had?
I think let's start talking here with the planning commission. So the code updates, the ADU, stormwater engineering requirements, etc. Those are typically built into our operating budget. Those are items that we have budgeted legal fees for each year, or that we have had drafted by baseline. Either one of those are already included in your budget, in the proposed budget. That funding to support department procedural development and the administrative area, I think that ends up being particularly important now because we do have a new planning staff member. She began with us last week on Tuesday, and her name is Kate Moduleski. So she'll begin taking on, it'll be a little bit of a learning curve for her. But she will be taking on those administratively approved applications as well as coordinating applications as they come in. It's going to take her a little while before she's able to develop skills in order to process those heftier applications. So she'll be looking at those, and there are likely to be ones that are more on the major site plan arena that she will still need to have referred to baseline. But in the meantime, she'll be able to keep some regular office hours here and be able to have face-to-face time with the applicants. So we're really thankful to be able to bring her on board. We do have a little bit of training budgeted for the administrative department each year, and that's something that can certainly go towards supporting this position. So I would say that one is also accommodated in the proposed budget. Strategies to offset town expenses, the updated fee schedule and pass-through agreement for planning services. Those are items that really don't impact the budget as they are accomplished through your fee and fine schedule. So based on discussions tonight, and your decisions tonight, we will be bringing forward an updated proposed 2025 fee and fine schedule to reflect those wishes of the board. So if you'd like to pull up the budget and go to our administrative and we can look at where that.
Was that your Excel page or just
Yeah,
here
that's
in
the
the-
Excel page.
Oh,
No worries.
no one wants to see it, right? There.
Bo, can I drive?
Yeah. Yeah, here you go.
So this is a document that you are familiar with. It is categorized into three different funds. First being our general fund. The second fund being our capital improvement funds that ends up being for capital projects and is often funded by grant revenues. And then we also have our conservation trust fund, which is a transfer into the general fund to support parks operations. First on here, we do have our revenues, and we have projected those, I would say, pretty conservatively based on actuals that we observed over the past couple of years and keeping within those trends, but still being pretty conservative with those. There is a potential that those revenues will go up depending on what occurs in the world over the next 6 or 8 months, but it's too early to tell what that's going to look like. Then we do have in here our interdepartmental fund as well. Those are additional revenues that come in, as well as, oh, those are expenses. I jumped down way too far. Okay, so we do have professional services, and this line item here includes our finance accountant, as well as some planning services in there. And so we do have an opportunity to adjust that if you would like to. But that pretty much sums up our planning and land use requests from the Planning Commission. Any questions there?
Yeah, what's under general department, 20 under departmental, what's the professional services under that?
The interdepartmental professional services under here. You know, that might be I'm trying to remember.
I know what that is. That's the judge and the
Oh.
prosecutor. And court stuff is in that.
That is.
Oh, it is further down. Oh.
So. Well, we have audit up separate too. I'd have to,
IT.
I'd have to run a report. And see, we have IT separately too. And I do have Victoria online. Victoria, are you able to jump into arrays and give a summary of what expenses have been coded to?
Tell her she's muted.
Oh, and you are muted.
We can pull this out.
There you go. Okay, so the professionals line in admin, that's, so
It's
I'm
actually,
not in the
Yeah.
interdepartmental, I'm in the, I can't roll your screen. So it's it's up there in services professional. So that's made up of JCS, which is the porta potty, and baseline and me.
I think JCS was actually
Julia.
Julia Simmons, so that was additional planning expenses from.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No worries.
Right.
And then in interdepartmental on that.
So yeah, I can get into arrays. Get my chart accounts.
I have it set to screen share if you want to project that. Just let her know.
She's grabbing it off the printer.
So that is, Wilson and Company, JP's, that is porta potties mostly, is what that is.
Again, slower, please.
Wilson and Company and porta potties.
So we do have Wilson and Company on a couple of things that they helped us with in 2023 and 2024 with some cost estimating for our PPRTA 3 projects. That, you know, the porta potties that we are using currently are certainly a little bit more expensive than the ones we'd had before. We realize that they're being serviced quite a bit better, but that cost has gone up. And that is a spot to be able to have professional services that are unbudgeted that support all departments.
Yeah, do we have a breakout of what the porta pots one cost us?
Victoria, are you able to run 1 month of porta pots in for probably, let's say, a busy month?
So it runs like $740. Looks like $740 is a pretty common cost of Mr. Potts, and the JP's looks like it's $1,200 a month.
That was under Mr. Potts. Under JP's, it's been about $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
We also doubled the rate of cleanouts when we switched. Part of the impetus for changing to the different contractor was we were missing services with our original contractor. So like after a weekend, things were full, they weren't getting picked up. It was, we all know about those problems too much. And so we switched contractors and increased the service. And that's part of it, part of that increase too. Remember block date.
Yeah, I'm trying to forget. Okay.
So with that said, the 25 projection might be a little light, about 15,000.
You know, it really depends. I don't think that I foresee a whole lot of that. $1,200 a month is basically that $15,000 amount. If we were to need additional services and expect that we would have to adjust that budget, we'd be bringing it back in front of you.
Manager Frank, being that we're so tight on our budget, how do you justify hiring more administration, i.e. the planning individual? The
hope is that we will be able to achieve some savings through less referrals to baseline.
Can you give me anything other than hope? Did you weigh some numbers on how we phase out that baseline versus the new administrative cost?
Certainly the hourly cost for this employee versus the hourly cost of baseline is drastically reduced. In addition to assisting with the applications, we do have a very significant archival project that needs to occur. Land use applications and files are part of our permanent retention record. We had a lot of those that had come here, were stored at Public Works for a number of years after the fire. And BoT has begun getting into those. However, being able to dedicate time to it, an uninterrupted time to it, so that that's done successfully is also kind of a huge priority.
You know, I understand your reasoning, but I don't understand your financial reasoning. I mean, it's no secret that the town manager's contract is up for, I mean, we're debating whether we can afford a town manager. So it really confuses me, when you decide to add to the already strained budget. Okay.
The hope is to reduce the budget through this effort.
Yes, but hope is not a financial, determinant. It's like, we're dealing with numbers. I want to know if it's going to be 6 months, 3 months, what that time frame is and how much added expense it's going to take. You understand? You understand?
I understand. Other questions?
Pardon me?
Are there any other questions? That's the best answer that I have for you at this time on that one.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I do have another question. Can you explain why that in your budget reporting to the board that you didn't create a column for 2024 projected year end?
We are still working on our final audit statements. So we have, we're really close. We're near the finish line. I did speak to the auditor today and he anticipates being able to take a look at the work that we've produced early next week. So that is forthcoming. If we find that something is drastically different than we expected, we certainly have the opportunity to amend the budget.
Okay, yeah, I hear that. I understand. I did say projected. It's part of manager's job to project what the outcome will be, particularly in this question, what our budget's going to be at the end of the year, and not necessarily audited.
Victoria, are you able to help with that?
So is it possible to turn the volume up on the board's mics? I can hear you two. I can tell her talking, but so.
Oh, we just need to get closer to our
So
microphone.
we just need to get closer to the mic. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear Bo and Becky, but I can tell the other ones are talking, but I can't hear what they're saying.
Hang on a minute.
I think we're on the wrong mic.
Point of clarity while that's occurring, so that, so we're directing,
It's gonna be here.
Victoria correctly, because I understood your question. You were asking about a projection for 24, and Manager Frank was
USB
responding
audio?
about for 23.
Oh, speaker.
No, it's the mic.
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't.
I presume she'll talk about 24.
Somebody has a question for me. I didn't hear whatever it was before.
Victoria, can you hear?
Oh, I can hear that. I hear John. Great.
Great. I think we just switched our audio that it was pulling from, and I think we've corrected that.
Oh, great.
So Trustee Walker, would you please restate your question for Victoria?
Yes, the question is, why wasn't the budget that was presented to the board show a column for a projected year-end budget for 2024? We have a third quarter, but we don't have a year-end projected.
So the second column over, I'm trying to roll on that screen. So the second column, so when we worked on this budget, it was in September 23rd. I didn't go through and recast it to come up with what the actual remaining budget was, because it's 2 months into the next quarter, and I'm waiting to, I would like to get the prior year finished so we can close that. But the total amount of the budget is that column C there. That is what the budget was for 2024.
That's ending in third quarter, correct?
Well, no, it's the annual budget. That's the total amount.
Yes, that's not what I was asking. I was asking
sorry.
about the projected year end, because there's a number of line items that are blown out on the actual budget year to date.
Okay, I'm not quite getting what you're asking me. So if I change the year-to-date actual, which is column B, that would alter things in the rest of the
No.
spreadsheet.
What I'm
Yep.
asking for is information that's not presented on the budget. And that is a projection of the year end 2024. Those items that are over budget and under budget.
So that column D is simply the difference between the annual budget and the year-to-date actual. So if you wanted to get a better view of what should be in column D, which I think is what you're asking me about.
No,
I could.
that's
Okay,
not what I'm asking.
all right,
I'm-
so try me again.
I'm asking why there wasn't information that showed a new column which shows the projected year end for 2024 as opposed to the actual budget or the annual budget that was presented at the first of the year. So we have a third quarter column, which are actual numbers, but I was asked, it would be very helpful to me, and I think the board, to see a projected year end, particularly since we look like we're in a deficit position.
Okay, well, I could bring this up to date so that the first column had numbers that were more current, if that's what you're asking for.
I think I can help a little bit here. Victoria, some of these things, like we were just talking about the porta pots, for example, and that's an expense that's extremely top heavy in the summer and then like entirely goes away by this quarter of the year. And so if we sat down with this, you couldn't just do it mathematically. You would like have to know about the mechanics of kind of what's coming. So this would be like a joint venture for me, you, and Becky, to put that together. Is that?
Yeah, and you can
what we're thinking?
understand, it appears like we're going to have quite a deficit for 2024. It'd be nice to see what that projection is.
Sure. Yeah, and I hear you. A lot of those categories, like that money is spent and it's kind of closed out for the year. Some of them, it's continued expense. And I get why you'd want to see that. I'm trying to explain to Victoria, I don't think there's a way to like Excel equation an answer to this. I think we have to sit down and line by line.
Yeah, you'd have to pretty much go through it line by line.
Yeah.
I could make the job a little easier by updating that column B, because that would get us closer to, so here we are in the middle of November, get closer to where we actually are for the.
Yeah, and that's exactly that. I think that's where we would want to start. It like you would hand that off to Becky and I with that complete, I think.
You know, this is a question I had as a trustee. Now, my fellow trustees, please chime in if you think that kind of information would be helpful.
I think if we set the expectation going forward, the saying, because what I have seen back in Kansas, they had an encumbered column. So basically the encumbered was they had a budget, but here's basically what was already spent or expected to be spent. They had that as what they call them. What I've seen as an encumbered, I'm not sure if that's legit accounting term or not, but
It's archaic, but I know what you mean.
okay. Archaic. Thank you. Yes, I'm 63.
Well, they were teaching that to me when I was in college in the 70s. So
So
they have different terminology now. They keep changing it because they think it somehow makes it better. And I don't think they've improved the reporting a bit. So, I mean, in terms of, so I could see if this was like, if you were looking at a big construction project or something like that, where you'd budgeted a certain amount for it, and you'd like to know how far are you along. I mean, this report that we have here shows, based on what we thought we were going to spend, which is the budget, and then the year-to-date actual is what had gotten spent through September. Now, like I said, I can make that clearer to see how close we are to the end of the budget by fixing that first column, by updating column B. But it's still, just in terms of when you're talking about encumbrances, that would be kind of what you would be in your old situation, would have been projecting we're going to be the additional costs. As far as we know, based on what when this budget was created in 2024 or 2023 for 2024, its purpose is to say, this is what we think it's going to cost. And we believe that what we haven't spent yet, we will spend by the end of the year.
The other thing that I think is really important to consider about this budget is that when it was adopted, we did a 4% across the board, knowing that there were some unknowns as a result of Proposition HH still being in the works. So we adopted this budget with full anticipation of having to do a budget amendment. Therefore, what has occurred over the past year is that when we knew that we had expenses that were outside of what was budgeted, a couple of those, the capital equipment purchase of the truck, as well as some engineering services for some of our PPRTA projects, those were brought to you for approval. So it's quite likely that we will need to do a budget amendment based on that
For 2025 or 24?
for 2024. Yeah, so
Well, see, that makes it all the more important. And as far as the concept is the same as the numbers that you present for 2025. It's a projection. All you're
Yes.
doing in this case is you're projecting 3 months in advance instead of 18 months in advance or 15.
yeah, so we can certainly get you an updated with that info on there with some projections.
Well, thank you. One last question. Does the budget for the planning commission present any particular problem in not showing the numbers like the other committees do?
The planning commission's requests, most of the planning commission's work is operational. So it's a little bit different. Some of the parks projects that you'll see, they did have some recommendations for operational, but they also had some recommendations that were for capital improvements.
So the question is there a particular problem why you don't show any numbers on your presentation?
They're included, they're embedded within already operational costs.
I get that. But so are the other committees. So I'm just saying it'd be helpful if we had actual numbers that were pulled out. That's all. Thank you.
So yeah. The idea, I guess the real answer to that is that we have done a lot of work to clean up this budget. It was very itemized in the past to where every single thing, every type of grant was separately categorized. And I think that the reason that it was done that way was because they didn't have a system in place that allowed them to track projects. Victoria's helped us implement that. And so we can certainly pull reports and be able to identify what has been itemized to those particular projects. But, we anticipate that there's going to be code cleanup. And we know that that code cleanup is going to require a couple of different expenses, some legal expenses, but then also recodification process that occurs through Civic Plus. So there's a couple of different things that go into that.
All the more reason to have some numbers pulled out for us to see. I mean, we're looking at, legal expenses that were twice this year right now, what was budgeted. So it would be helpful. Town attorney, forgive me, I'm not exactly right on there, but $11,000. No, forgive me, I looked at that backwards. I withdraw that statement. I was incorrect. But there are a number of other items there that I've highlighted that are over budget. And it would just be helpful if we knew and could project what additional expenses we would have, just like in the code rewrite. The code rewrite was over budget, right?
Yeah, well, we did have a couple of key staff turnovers, both in planning and with accounting, and that's where a lot of those additional expenses were incurred.
Thank you.
I think Sunday King had a.
Mhm. Mhm. That ends up being professional services. It kind of really depends on unknown factors of what we're going to need next year. The big projects that we have going on through PPRTA, the bridge and whatnot, we're receiving technical assistance for those to have that engineering design build occur through a grant. So there aren't any anticipated expenses that we have that are known at this time for 2025. Certainly, if we had those come up, we would be bringing them before you. Mhm. So the Wilson would probably be in the, that's an admin, it would be an interdepartmental. You're welcome. Okay, shall we jump into another one of the committees? So we have the Parks, Rec and Trails Advisory Committee's prioritization scorecard. Their number one is the Friends of Youth Past Trails contract that has been budgeted for in your budget here under elected officials. Come on. Yep, it's contributions to other organizations. So this ends up being the Friends of Youth Past Trail and the contribution to Fountain Creek Watershed District that has been made annually. That did go up a little bit. We were told that it was going to go up the Fountain Creek Watershed District for 2020. When we put this budget together, we did build in a very small amount of padding there. It's historically been about under $400 a year that as a member of their watershed, the town has contributed. Next up on the list is Trail Ambassador Program. That is $300, and I can't remember if we included that one in there. PPRTA, nope, wrong. I thought that I saw it in there somewhere. PRT discretionary. So we've got $500 in that. And they have requested a little bit more than that. So
If I could interrupt.
Mhm.
The $500 discretionary is not showing up in 2025.
Oh, it's not. So we can add that back in there if you would like to, and we can make that change live. Other items that they had that they requested funding for included trail signage and cleanup and some miscellaneous in the amount of 600. I will say, and I had a little bit of, I did need to ask for some clarification for this hotel park beautification. We do have funding left over from the PPRTA 2 project there that can go towards reinstallation and reseeding of that area. Is this outside of that?
This would give sort of a foundation so that we could go out and do some fundraising and do some, ask for some donations, sort of matching, saying the town's willing to put in 5,000. So if people would want to donate, they could, see the town has some skin in the game for that.
So outside of that work that's already planned. Okay. Thank you, Nancy. So, we have the opportunity to discuss this a little bit here, right? Oh, and this was revenue. That's why it's listed like this. So you guys had a donation in a previous year that I believe that you spent, is that correct?
Yeah, I was wanting to, I thought we probably, the way we're talking, it kind of sounded like we needed to add that 500 into expenses.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what that $2.69 expense was in 2020.
What, that's the remaining budget. It's not the.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so the $5,000 expense, is it currently included? Is it not?
It is not currently included.
Okay.
Oops. Jump ahead. Jumping around. Every time you look, I change it. Every time you look up here, I would the board like to entertain including some here for Parks Rec and Trails Advisory Committee? And if so, how much?
Say that again.
Would the board like to include some funding on this revised budget for Parks Rec and Trails Advisory Committee's request?
Well,
Well, and I suggest that we, this be more than Trail Ambassador. I'm gonna wait until Anne's phone is not echoing.
So that $297 was all maps that were purchased by Nancy Dixon.
Okay, so that was maps last year, but it was Trail Ambassador support. And we can rename that category if we need to be Parks Rec and Trails Advisory Committee items.
yeah, I mean, it's really what's being asked is the $500 is really kind of de minimis.
It's kind of
De minimis?
De
You ever heard
minimis.
that term before? It means it's
minimal.
very minimal.
We can certainly consider including something else here if you'd like.
Before we're adding stuff to the budget, we're gonna try to get it to baseline, or are we just gonna keep adding stuff and then start taking stuff out? Or I guess I'm a little confused on that part.
Well, this is just basically trying to see if we generally agree with it. Whatever the committees have come back with for what they're desiring.
Well, I get it, but we were 20 grand in the hole is what I'm saying. Is that not right?
It's requiring $20,000 as proposed from the fund balance.
Mm-hmm. So we're adding to that negative. Is that correct?
Yes.
At this point, until we adjust others, yes.
Would you like to see what it looks like fully funded? We have here 5, 6, 72, 7,500. Does that sound?
12,000 total.
But minus the Friends of Ute Pass Trails contract, because we've already got that included in the budget.
Well, I'm
6,500.
kind of wondering if we shouldn't have, what's currently in there versus, okay, here's the items on each individual committee thing that may or may not be included yet. That might be a better way to handle it at this point.
Okay.
Right now it would be pretty much anything. It kind of looks outside of Friends of Ute Pass Trail contract.
Right, I'm gonna highlight this because we do have it included already. So Trail Ambassador Program, $300 to support that. Any feedback from the board there?
And you're not coming through. I'm not hearing you at all. So
Trail Ambassador Program, any opinion on $300 to support that?
well, I would say we just flag all of those items because they're not in the budget currently.
So
So that's 7,200 and 300, 7,500. That's not into our current budget.
7,200, 7,500 is what you got.
I'm
Yep.
just trying to add in my head. I'm
Yeah,
not
that's what I
6,500.
got.
6,500.
6,500.
6,500. Sorry. So then we just note somewhere that on those that they're not currently in the budget.
Well, they are in this next draft going forward. All right. So fire mitigation. Here we do have, I need to reduce this amount because we have made some expenditures out of that. CUSP was able to accomplish ultimately 8 acres from this. And I need to get the actual amount off of there. So the town's cost in 2024 is 24,000. That has been exhausted from that. So we do have oops. Victoria 62 minus 24 for people that don't do math in front of groups.
38.
Thank you. So we do have this as a balance forward. We have been working with CUS to identify acreage there, and I did want to share this with you. Oh,
Vicky, wasn't that number really 65, not 62?
it was 65 total, but I think that there was an additional expenditure that came out of there.
Okay.
Adrian did put together a map for us of areas that were treated by CUSP. This is a little bit hard to see. This is the Thomas Trail route here. Any areas that were shaded are areas that CUSP treated. What's not on here is the work that Mile High Youth Corps has completed. So that ends up being this piece here, and I believe another section in through here. So we were able to accomplish that without funding from the town. That was through Youth Corps work. They are currently, and this is really kind of difficult to see up here. And I attempted to print copies, but we had a copier issue today. Had to have the tech guy come in. So they're probably locked in queue. Under the current grant, probably not all of the $65,000 from the Kirkpatrick Family Foundation is going to be able to be exhausted. So in discussing that with the funder, what their recommendation was to have the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee look at some alternative uses to that funding. They did want to have an emphasis on being able to expand that dollar through matches to grants. And they do have some opportunities. And when you are looking at the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee's requests, there are certainly some very clear ways in which that work can be accomplished. The team Rubicon appreciation, we know, is hours and hours of man labor out there. A little bit of appreciation from as a town match is something that's really easily to justify. The community education events, they did have, you know, several of those that they wanted to help support. Of course, I think all of those items that they do want to have accomplished can be accommodated with that Kirkpatrick funding if the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee chooses to and brings a proposal to you. I was hoping that they would put together an annual work plan for 2025. Those are usually presented at the beginning of the year.
So for clarity, those grants can be used as requested
Mhm.
and it's compliant. So,
Mhm.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you know, the nice thing, the piece with CUSP is that they were, when the town started, when CUSP first got that grant, on the town's behalf, I think that we were really lucky that they were able to get grant funding on our behalf. Typically, those types of fire mitigation projects do have to be identified in a current community wildfire protection plan. Ours, as included in the pass protection plan, is quite antiquated, which would pretty much eliminate us from being able to be eligible for those funding sources. So we were lucky that CUSP was able to apply for those on our behalf and utilize those funds, but they also had some challenges throughout COVID with keeping crews and getting crews that were able to come up here. In the meantime, we were able to accomplish a lot of the work with the Mile High Youth Corps that was scheduled. So at no cost to the town. So that was really good. Some successes there. We have just a couple of minutes before the board meeting starts.
Yeah, I'm gonna be suggesting that we start trimming out the baseline stuff. My expectation is that once we get the 3 staff members up and running, the only time we'd probably be going out to someone else is if we get something super complicated like an annexation.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I'm all in favor of dwindling that down to whatever it needs to dwindle down. Unfortunately, it's dependent upon the new person and how quickly they come up to speed. And so trying to put a dollar figure on that right now is a little difficult.
Sorry, you said 3 staff members? Oh, they're not up to speed? You guys aren't up to speed? What? Yeah, you're not. What do we do before baseline and the others? Nothing?
We had Julia Simmons. She worked for a period of time, and yeah, I think that that's a lot of the expense that we also saw in 2024 was projects that she had initiated and wasn't able to complete. So baseline essentially started from 0 with them, and the town paid for them twice.
No,
You don't, I can't hear that. I'm trying. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, so in 2024, when we had the staff transition, Julia Simmons had begun a lot of work on implementing the land use code, as well as on some applications. And I think that we only ended up getting 1 easement in front of the board before we transitioned to baseline. So baseline picked up a pretty heavy lift. They had some recommendations on some of the things that Julia had initiated, saying, you know, this might work a little bit better with your land use code, but it was everything from amending the fee and fine schedule to reflect language that was in the new land use code. You might recall that, those of you that were here, to picking up applications that needed to be. So that cost of being brought up to speed was 4. Did you hear okay there? Thank you.
Take a 5-minute break before the meeting. It's okay.
You're back.
We can discuss more, but that's just gonna keep it on how.
Greetings.
Well, so I want to just tell you this person, it's like, I don't feel like we.
It's not that's weird, like the RCA.
I made the decision. We've had three.
You know, I think that it.
Understanding you're making that, you're putting, I'm gonna object if you don't. Did you hear that? He doesn't want to reconvene in executive. He just wants to put it to the vote, just like he did on the second.
So are you done with me, or do you need me for something more?
Executive session, so.
Yeah, yep. Do you want me to update that column B on that, on the spreadsheet? I kind of, I don't really feel like that's useful information, actually, because it doesn't really pertain to what we're trying to work on, but if that would make things work better, I can do that.
Hey, Victoria, you should mute.
Say again?
You're not muted.
Yep, yep. So you want me to do that? I will do that. I probably have time to work on that tomorrow. Yeah, give me a call and we'll work out what you need from me.
Well, I guess 6H includes the budget adoption and resolution.
Have a project before last week. This is new. So.
Really? You started to go?
I don't think it started.
It's 1 week and it's gone.
I have a lot of stations last week.
Oh, yeah.
I thought we were gonna do priorities. You remember that, the CML thing we had, we had all of our goals laid out? That never came up. I was ready to talk about that.
One more in, one more in.
Everyone ready? Okay, I have 7:01, and we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. If we could get someone in Zoom land to tell me if they can hear me loud and clear.
I can hear you. This is Julie.
Okay, thank you. All trustees are here, and so if you'd please stand and join me in pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving right along into item 2, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda.
I have a couple, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
The first item is 6C, consider removal of the town manager, or consider renewal of the town manager employment contract. I'm really not prepared to talk about the contract that was included or provided in the packet. I'd like to reconvene in our executive session to talk about the contract before it comes up into a public vote. So I ask that it be taken off the agenda business items to be considered in an executive session at a later time.
Is there a second on that? Because I do have a comment. The comment is, we've already had several executive sessions. I ask each member to provide me input. I only received one input, and therefore that's what's in there. And I would like to keep it because I think not voting is actually doing a disservice to the town.
Well, my rebuttal would be that fact that we ended our last executive session on that matter with a request of budget information.
And that updated budget was supplied.
And we never reconvened.
Is there a second? Is that a motion?
Yes, that was a motion.
Is there a second?
If he needs more time, I'm fine with it.
Okay, I'm going to do a roll call vote on that if there, unless there's other additions or corrections to the agenda. I'm going to start on my left.
I do have another item too.
Okay, let's do this one first. Start on my left with trustee Bell. Yay is, can we even do an executive session real quick?
I believe it needs to be properly public noticed.
I think we'd have to publish it as well. So a yay would be basically would be reconvening another executive session at a later time, probably Thursday. Because we got holidays coming up. Hang on.
We do have the boardroom occupied, BUPC.
We will bump if it's already.
Okay.
And so a yay would be a vote delay and basically have another executive session. A nay would be we keep it on the agenda. So I'll start with trustee Bell.
A nay?
Trustee Ives,
Yes.
trustee Walker,
Yay.
trustee King.
Yay.
Well, that pretty much sets it there. I'm a nay. Yeah, so that that effectively removes item 6C from the agenda. Okay. Okay, you had another correction?
Yes, this would be 6H under business items. consideration of the 2025 budget adoption, sub item 1 and sub item 2. So I don't think that I'm prepared to approve the budget information that was considered in the work session since it's incomplete. So I move that this be taken off the agenda and reinserted at another time. I make a
Okay.
motion of such.
Okay, discussion or posting requirements.
We did consider this coming up, and we're set on posting requirements. One option that the board has is to continue the public hearing until the next meeting, which would not trigger a need to re-notice.
So basically, we'd be just deleting 6H item 2. We could continue on, we could continue the public hearing.
It would, you'd still leave it on the agenda, but you would not close the public hearing. You would, somebody would need to make a motion to have a continuance of the public hearing, and that would also continue budget adoption to a future meeting.
Okay, so we'd be striking item 6H2, right?
Correct. It would just move it out also. It would
Okay.
Continue it, and we'd continue that to the meeting. You will need a meeting date to continue it to. Your next regularly scheduled meeting is December the 3rd.
Mayor,
Yes.
how does that affect our compliance?
If we do I believe if we do the continuation, the extension of the public hearing, I think we're okay. Is that right?
You will need to adopt the budget by December the 31st. Compliance.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is possibly, let me rephrase this. Dropping 6H2, we would go ahead and open the public hearing, but then see if we could get a vote to continue it until December 31st, 30th.
December 3rd.
When?
December 3rd.
December 3rd.
I will agree to that, yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays? Okay, that one carries. Okay, moving along.
Mayor,
Yes, go
I'd
ahead.
like to make an addition to the agenda.
Okay,
I'd like to substitute 6C, the consideration of renewal, with a budget discussion specific to the consideration for renewal.
say
And
that again. I didn't hear, you dropped off at the end. I didn't hear you at the end.
I would like to replace 6C that's been struck with a budget discussion of the consideration for renewal.
Special event application?
No. So for 6C, it currently in the draft agenda was consider renewal of the town manager employment contract. Trustee Walker wanted that removed. I'd like it to be replaced with a discussion about the budget for consideration.
Yes, go 6C.
Rather than have it go to 6C, that's in our business items, we could add it to discussion items under item number 7 on your agenda,
Got it.
if that works.
Okay.
Are you wanting to add
Apparently 7B.
7B? as a budget discussion. Okay, I'll go ahead and second that. Any further discussion on that modification to the agenda? If not, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Nay.
What?
Nay.
You brought it up.
Oh, I thought the entire agenda.
No, hang on.
Oh, my
This is
item,
on
yeah,
your-
my
this is on
item,
your
yes.
agenda.
The 7B
I'm like,
is,
what?
yes, sorry.
Okay, so the motion is to add item 7B under discussion for a budget discussion. I've seconded. Trustee Bell's moved, I've seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Sorry. So that's a 4-1. Did anyone else oppose?
Oh, we're having fun today.
Okay. Hey, that's why we get the big money, right? Okay, are there any further additions or deletions or corrections to the agenda? I think we voted on each individual item. Do we need to vote on everything as a whole? Yes, I'm hearing that I'm going to move, we approve the agenda as it's been amended by the 3 items. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as it's been modified with the 3 items. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we had 2 ayes, I think.
Aye.
You were aye, 3? Okay. I take it you're a nay?
I'm a nay.
I'll join you with a nay. I'll do a 3-2 on that. Okay. We're moving on. We're into our consent agenda, the meeting minutes from October 1st, 2024. Do we have any corrections? If not, I'll take any kind of motion on this. I really try to get the board members, the trustees to make the motions unless it's something that,
Okay.
yeah, as much as
Yes.
possible.
Just because?
You want to discuss?
No, just
the consent
because I
agenda?
just wasn't sure why.
Oh, okay.
So I move we approve the consent agenda meeting minutes from 10/1/24.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We approve our meeting minutes from October 1st. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do we have any nays? Okay, that one carries. Moving on to reports. I'll start on the right with trustee King.
Nothing.
Okay, trustee
No,
Walker,
No report.
trustee Ives,
No.
trustee Bell.
I'm gonna wait for 7B.
Okay. The state kind of sent Bo another little fine, how do you do on some of our, they wanted to know the mill levies and the, how much money we're getting from mill levies. So yeah, I'm concerned that the state's gearing up to mess with us a little bit more, as far as our, property tax revenues. Outside of that, I don't have anything additional to report.
What do you mean mess with us?
Well, the past couple of years, they've gone in and altered the percentage. Because you have what the assessor thinks the value is, And then you got an assessed value. They keep altering that percentage on the assessed value. And that directly affects our property tax revenues. And they've done it for like 2 years now. And the fact that they're asking for information causes me great concern.
And when will we hear if they're going to mess with us per se? Do we know?
Not, everything has been done for this year,
Okay.
but the new session starts in January and who knows what's going to come out of that.
Okay.
It's impossible to, our lobbyists don't know or anything, so. Okay, moving on to staff reports.
So a couple of big highlights this year, the CDBG Bridge Rehabilitation and Accessibility Project is closed out. Apologize for my typo there. Apparently I was really excited about having that closed out. The technical assistance team that's working with the pool is looking at a date to present their findings. So more to come on that. I do want to say that comprehensive roads and drainage study has become really, really handy as a guide for the hazard mitigation assistance grants that we've been looking for or looking at. Unfortunately, we were not awarded the most recent one that we applied for, and that was to help to reestablish some drainage in our town to protect the town's road system. But there is some additional funding that will be coming available and we'll keep pursuing that. Our fire mitigation for the season has concluded. We had between COSWAP, CUS, Mile High Youth Corps, and the Team Rubicon, all projects are complete. We did have to end the season for Mile High Youth Corps about a week early due to that snowstorm, but we tacked that week on to next year. So we do have an additional 12 weeks of work from the Mile High Youth Corps in 2025 coming up. Also really thankful for all of the work from the Nuisance Tree Task Force that has really helped to guide some thought processes there. FEMA, all projects are submitted and I believe all but one of them have been reimbursed. So we're looking good there. Still continuing to do some planning support, that land use code cleanup. You'll see a couple of items come in before you this evening. And of course, Public Works deserves some huge kudos. A couple of things occurred since drafting this report. But definitely thanks to the staff and the volunteers for the great season. The park and the pool have been winterized, and I got word today that our dump truck passed emissions and they went and got plates on it. So you'll be seeing that cruise around in town legally. They will begin to upfit it with tires initially so that we can get chains on it and likely a snow plow attachment for it. We're looking at a couple of options to bring before you in early 2025. The Ute Pass Avenue Bridge is quite a big project. Really thankful for Karen Rowe with PPACG, who's the IJJA grant navigator, for her assistance. We did receive technical assistance in the form of grant writing from a grant writing team. For that process, we are looking at currently how to, can we do a design build so that we're not having to do engineering and then the application that'll help to expedite that process, but then also what are some strategies that the town can utilize to manage that cash flow, as that project is definitely outside of what our coffers will allow. And then of course, Public Works did a phenomenal job of responding to that last snow event that we had. So really want to thank them for their dedication there. Any questions from the board?
I'd like
did.
to echo the thanks for Public Works for coming out and keeping the roads as clear as they can. I know as they were having to work shifts and whatnot over the 3 days worth. So I'd really like to thank them. The roads are actually, the material underneath seems to be holding up very well. It's well packed. So yeah, thanks, special thanks to Public Works.
Yes, Manager Frank, how much money did we end up spending on the gazebo bridge rehab?
That was approximately $119,000, I think. I'd have to pull the figure completely, but we have received reimbursement for that project in totality. So there was no town match as part of that project.
What about the sidewalk?
The
What-
sidewalk was included as part of that project.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it really built upon the previous year's CDBG project, which put the big bulk of the sidewalk in there through the park. That little piece of it really tied in that critical element of the bridge to the rest of the sidewalk. When we did the first project, it was decided to not do that portion of sidewalk with it, as we anticipated it would be damaged with the bridge repair.
Yeah, and one other question. Do you know why that, yeah, I agree with her. The Public Works did a great job in getting the snow cleared off during the storm. My question is, why don't I see them out with the sand and salt on the ice patches after the event?
Oh, they should be out there. If you ever see any spots that are needing extra sand and salt, that report a non-emergency issues, my PSA for the night, that report a non-emergency issue button that's on the front page of our website is a phenomenal tool. It pings all of our departments so that we can ensure that we're following up.
I'm sorry, I've lost you. What? Are you saying I should have reported it?
Yeah, definitely. If there's a spot that
But
you're
why
seeing.
aren't, I was on Belvedere Avenue. It's
Oh,
all-
they've been up and down it. They
No, ma'am.
try to hit it, but
No,
if
not after the plow. There hasn't been a salt truck on it or sand. And the material's free, right?
we do, yes,
Okay, I'm
Oh.
just saying, I just wondered why it wasn't done. Thank you.
wonderful. Any other questions? Do we have any other staff members that are ready for a report tonight?
I can report if you want, but there's not a long night, so people necessarily hear my voice.
Okay.
I didn't add anything either. I think we're set on reports.
Okay, with that, we'll move on into our item number 5, our public comment. We'll do 3 minutes per speaker. I've got a little timer up here, so do we have people in the audience who would like to speak? Make sure your button's on, make sure you say your name, address.
Brandy Morales, 6970 Howard Street. I serve as the chairperson for the GMF Planning Commission, and I'm here to ask you to renew the contract for our current town manager, Ms. Becky Frank. You may not be voting on this tonight anymore, but I ask that you consider this during your executive session. There is a huge administrative burden on every town government that must be met. Significant time and effort is needed to prepare for each decision, apply for grants, process permit requests, and many other administrative actions. Currently, these duties are being ably managed by our town manager in coordination with our own clerk. However, if one of those positions were to go away, even temporarily, the town's administration efforts would be effectively brought to a halt. Hope is not a plan. If you do not renew the contract for our current town manager, you will be effectively hamstringing the administration of this town's government for at least a year. And that is even assuming we can find somebody who is as well qualified to fill the position at a later date. You run the risk, again, of getting somebody who is not a good fit for our town, like her predecessor was. It also takes time to learn the state and federal laws and regulations that we must abide by. And that doesn't even count becoming familiar with the nuances of our own town's very unique land use code. Who will fill in the vacuum of finding and training someone new? The town mayor, who already devotes a significant portion of his free time to his duties, or the town clerk, who would be left alone to try to manage everything by himself? No and no. I also doubt we have enough volunteers that have the time and expertise to do these duties either. Unless you personally are planning on taking on these tasks while we search and train up for a new manager, the choice not to renew this contract would be a dereliction of your duty to the town. Additionally, since 2021, Becky has successfully managed and brought approximately $1.5 million of grant money to help our town that would otherwise have been lost to us. These grants have allowed the town to take on projects that would otherwise be impossible or would have been passed on as costs to the taxpayers. Becky Frank has proved to be knowledgeable, helpful, and ultimately responsive to our town's needs. It seems to me that it would be more fiscally responsible to renew that contract. And if you do not, it is my opinion you would be doing our town a great disservice. The contract's going to be up very soon. Y'all need to give an answer, not only as a board, but just as a person. Give somebody a chance to plan for their life. Delaying this is not acceptable. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you.
There is, thank you.
Hang on just a minute.
Hello, Ann Ish. Oh,
Wait a minute. Okay.
what?
I had to get the timer reset. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
And
Now we're ready.
We're ready. You're on.
Is
I
it
think
okay?
You're okay. Go.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I forgot my hearing aids, so I'm paying attention, but I'll look forward to the recording too. I want to second what our chairman said about renewing Ms. Becky Frank's contract. I believe she's done an outstanding job. She's so knowledgeable. She understands the area completely, being born and raised in Victor, working in Teller County, working with so many other people in our UPass area is invaluable. We've had other town managers that try. He's the best. A lot of it is that she's not only talented and patient, she's very kind. She gets along with people. And we need so much of that in the world. And as our elections at the national level are so acrimonious and in flux, we need her even more as the government is going to be changing. And she's the one to keep up with it. So I hope we'll spend the money on her, and with her able helpers, this will be what we want. Thank you.
Okay. There are others.
Good evening, Lisa Bonwell, 10691 Illinois Avenue. I also would like to comment and commend Brandy for her very articulate expressions of the performance of our town manager. And I also would like to speak in favor of retaining our manager, Frank, as the town manager of Green Mountain Falls. I've worked with Becky for the last 3 years as a volunteer in our town, both on the planning commission and in other aspects. And during that time and through many challenges, I've seen town manager Frank perform in a calm, responsive, and always professional manner. I had the opportunity to attend the Municipal League Conference in Loveland in July of 2024. And with Manager Frank and others from the town, I observed her networking with many of her peers and obviously well-respected and connected among the state of Colorado. Manager Frank possesses impartiality, compassion, integrity, and I urge you to renew the contract for Green Mountain Falls Town Manager with Becky Frank. Thank you.
We have others in the audience. Seeing none, we'll go to Zoom.
I am not seeing anything coming in from Zoom right now.
Okay. If there's no other public comments, we'll move into our business items. First one is item 6 Alpha Crash Responder Safety Week proclamation. I guess I'm going to go in speed reading mode here. So here we go. Whereas law enforcement officers, firefighters, public service utility, emergency, medical personnel, road crews, and tow operators conduct valuable and often life-saving operations at the roadside. Whereas these on-scene personnel provide a critical public service, and whereas they are called to duty at all hours of the day and night in adverse weather conditions and in a dangerous roadside environment, and whereas Colorado responders use traffic incident management system, TIM training, and skills to safely and quickly clear scenes to improve the safety of all road users, and whereas as of September 23rd, 2024, during this year, 28 first responders that were working on the roadway have been struck and killed, including 13 law enforcement officers, 3 fire EMS professionals, 7 tow operators, 1 road safety professional, and 4 Department of Transportation workers, 2 of which were Colorado Department of Transportation employees. And whereas 1 death is too many, and whereas drunk, drugged, drowsy, distracted, and dangerous drivers are a threat to our responder safety, and whereas the state of Colorado asks all road users to do their part to keep everyone responding to traffic incidents on our highways safe by slowing down, moving over, and driving safe, and whereas the state of Colorado has a move over law requiring drivers to slow down and move over when approaching an emergency vehicle, a tow truck, or a highway maintenance vehicle when their emergency lights are activated, and whereas there is a need for Coloradans to be educated on the dangers of failing to abide by these laws, and whereas the week of November 18th to 22nd is recognized nationally as Crash Responder Safety Week, therefore, I, Todd Dixon, Mayor, Town of Green Mountain Falls, do hereby proclaim November 18th to 22nd, 24 as Colorado Crash Responder Safety Week, and I urge all citizens to join me in the special observance, and remember that responders ahead, reduce your speed as you proceed. And I would take a motion to approve on that item.
I move that we approve the Crash Responder Safety Week proclamation.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the Crash Responder Safety Week proclamation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, moving on to item 6B as in Baker, consideration easement agreement at 10580 Illinois Avenue.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Julie Estrel. I'm here to present this item. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if I can. Not this. Sorry, that is my email. 1 second. Let me try again. Let's see. Okay, that's my desktop. Here we go.
You should be good to go now.
Thank you. Can you see my presentation now?
We sure can.
Okay, great. So I just have one, let's see, do I have just one slide? Yeah, I have all my items together. I just have one slide on this item. I'll try and be brief. This is a request from Doug Allen. He is on Zoom tonight. If you have any questions for him, he is requesting an easement agreement for the right-of-way in Illinois Avenue. As you can see on the map in the lower left, it is approximately 20 feet by 44 feet. There is an existing steps and wood platform that he uses to access his property. As you can see in the lower right-hand air photo, the easement, the proposed easement does not encroach into the existing traveled lane. And it does provide the only access to the property. He is wanting, Mr. Allen is wanting to repair or replace these steps. And before he can do that, he would like to have this official legal use easement agreement with the town so that he can officially use this piece of right-of-way for this purpose. So I make a motion that you guys approve this easement agreement, and I'll take any questions.
I have a question. Julie, this is trustee Walker.
Yes,
Is it, did I hear you correctly that anything other than the stairs would be prohibited in that easement area?
correct.
Thank you.
And this is trustee Bell. So I walk my dog by almost every day. And I noticed that there were improvements made to those stairs and the pad leading up to the stairs already. So are there additional improvements that are being requested?
I'll have the applicant respond to that.
Yeah, this is Doug Allen. I'll respond to that. When I acquired the property, there were the original stairs from, I don't know if it was from the 70s or the 40s, but was in a state of disrepair. So the previous owner, without a permit, put up the existing stairs. And in answer to your question, they're a lot better than the ones that were falling apart, and they're relatively solid, but I would not say they would pass code right now. So my intent is to get them drawn up, to get them approved by my engineer, and go through Pikes Peak Regional Building to get them approved. And there will be some enhancements made in order to get them approved. And just note, over the last year, if you've seen the property, I'm actually ready to call final inspection on just about everything right now. I just have a final electric, a final plumbing, and then a final to get the occupancy permit for the property itself. This process actually was started over a year ago. I paid the fee to get this agreement put together. It was last Thanksgiving, the week before Thanksgiving. So it's been a year. So I've pretty patiently, I think Julie will attest to that. She's seen the correspondence, pretty patiently waited for, and I don't know what the alternative is, but in answer to your question, yeah, we'll do some additional work on the stairs to make sure that they fulfill the building requirements.
Thank you.
Trustees, any additional questions or comments? If not, I'll take a motion.
I move that the easement application be approved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We approve the easement agreement on 10580 Illinois Avenue. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, our next item is original 6 Delta, consideration of a special events liquor application for Elite Equine. And I think what I'll do on this is public hearing. I'll just go ahead, and it's 7:39. We'll open the public hearing and have discussion during that. And then if there's no other comments, then we'll close. So I have 7:39. We'll open the public hearing on the special events liquor application.
This special events liquor application is for an event that's going to take place on December 7th. My office received a complete application on October 23rd. It was sent for public notice in the Pikes Peak Courier on October 30th, posted on site. It's still there since November 1st. And a copy of the complete application has been made available here at Town Hall since October 25th. The applicant is here to answer any questions, if there are any.
Okay, trustees, any questions, comments? And public, you're free to comment. Since it's a public hearing, you can comment on this item. Hang on. You have to use the microphone, sorry. Yeah. And if you would introduce yourself, where you live, and make sure the blue light is on the microphone.
It's on already. Oh, yeah, we're good. My name is Gina Haleska, and I am the president and founder of Elite Equine Rescue in Colorado Springs. We will I'm sure many of you know that we will be soon having our second facility in partnership with the Kirkpatrick Family Foundation here in Green Mountain Falls to initiate the opening and celebrate the ribbon cutting on December 7th. We will be having a ceremony to be followed by a fundraiser event at the Joyland Church. So we are asking for approval for a liquor license so that we may provide wine and spirits during this event. I'm open for any questions if you guys have any. They do love it. I mean, some prefer whiskey over beer, but yeah.
Okay, trustees, questions?
Question for Bo and Becky. How does this affect the church? And it's a rental. Is that even part of the issue?
I can speak to that slightly.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have an agreement with Joyland Church, just a one-time event agreement, lease agreement that we are under contract for the event. They will still be having service on Friday evening, and we will set up Saturday morning, have the event and take down as well all day Sunday.
And my question was only about the liquor. Is that included in the lease agreement?
That's our responsibility in the lease agreement, yes.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay, trustees, any other questions, comments? Members of the public, either in present or on Zoom, would anyone like to comment?
I'm not seeing anything coming in from Zoom or here in the room.
Perfect. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. With that, it's 7:43. I'll close the public hearing. And then I will also entertain any motions.
I recommend that we approve the special events liquor application for Elite Equine as requested.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. We approve the special events liquor application for Elite Equine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 6E as in Edward. Consideration of ordinance 2024-03, amending chapter 12 of the Green Mountain Falls Municipal Code regarding accessory dwelling units. And I will do this the same way. I'll go ahead and open a public hearing. We'll have discussion and then any comments, and then I'll close public hearing for a vote. So it is 7:44. We open the public hearing for consideration of ordinance 2024-03.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll give a quick presentation on this before public's comment. In October of this year, we had a work session, staff, the town attorney, and the planning commission regarding some minor tweaks we wanted to make to the land use code. And there were a few items that were discussed. This is the first one that the planning commission is bringing to you for your consideration. There were two items of the accessory dwelling unit section regulations that were discussed as being potentially too restrictive for citizens wanting to put an ADU on their properties. The first one was that the current regulations limit ADUs to 1,000 square feet and not larger. The second item is that currently manufactured homes are not allowed to be used as an ADU. So these are the two items the town attorney drafted for your review and consideration. The first would amend section 1233, subsection E1, item C, and it removes the reference to 1,000 square feet of gross floor area and inserts 75% of the gross square footage of the principal dwelling unit on the lot to which it is located. So this change would allow dwellings to be, or ADUs to be in comparison to the size of the primary structure rather than being restricted to 1,000 square feet. The second item is an amendment to section 1262, which is the definition section of the land use code. And the definition being proposed for amendment is accessory dwelling unit. It's listed here. The last sentence currently says a manufactured home or recreational vehicle, travel trailer, camper, or similar vehicle shall not be used as an accessory dwelling unit. And Planning Commission is proposing that we strike manufactured home so that a manufactured home type building could be established as an accessory dwelling unit. This I did not include in your packet, but I realized while I was preparing this presentation, this might be useful information for you. The definition of a manufactured home means a building fabricated in an offsite facility for installation or assembly at the building site, transportable in one or more sections that in the traveling mode is 8 feet or more in width, 40 feet or more in length, or when erected is 320 or more square feet in size, and is built on a permanent chassis and designed to be used as a dwelling for one family with or without permanent foundation when connected to the required utilities, and includes the plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical system contained in the building. So on November 12th, Planning Commission recommended approval of this ordinance 2024-03. I can take questions.
Yeah, go ahead. Trustees.
Julie, this is Trustee Walker.
Yes.
So forgive my outdated terminology, but is this another manufactured home, another word for mobile home?
No.
So basically we're allowing people to move mobile homes in on their R1s?
No, that's not correct. Mobile home is not allowed. A mobile home would probably be considered similar to, well, what the town attorney explained to us is that mobile home isn't really.
It's on a permanent chassis and wheels.
Well, this is a manufactured home, which is
Yes.
different than a mobile home. So yes, according to this definition, this is what would be allowed.
So this is a modern day mobile home. That's the way they're manufactured today. But if they are on permanent chassis and wheels.
Well, the wheels aren't allowed to be included because anything on wheels that can be towed is considered a recreational vehicle.
Okay, whoa. Yeah, who gave you that ruling?
The town attorney,
Was that Jeff or Austin?
Austin.
I want to talk to Austin about that. I do not agree.
You do not agree on the definition of a recreational vehicle?
I do not agree on that interpretation that anything that can be towed is considered a recreational vehicle, because a recreational vehicle by our definition is basically designed as temporary housing accommodations for recreational camping or travel use, including but not limited to travel trailers, truck campers, camping trailers, and self-propelled motorhomes. So there's obviously a definition difference on our current code that basically says a recreational vehicle is something that is intended for temporary use. And to me, a manufactured home, when I'm reading this definition here, is more intended for more permanent use. And it doesn't say anything about wheels towed, being towed, or anything. It's basically what the intended design of the home is to be.
Okay. I'm happy to have the attorney follow up with you. I want to just add the discussion for the reason for this item was a specific application that came in for a property that was proposing a single family dwelling that would be towed onto their property and established as a permanent residence. The town attorney, Austin Flanagan, determined that with the wheels attached, it would not be considered, it would be considered a recreational vehicle, and his interpretation was because of the way that that would be insured. It would be insured more as a vehicle rather than a dwelling. That's just a little background, but I'm happy to have him follow up with you.
Julie, trustee Walker again. To my recollection, their testimony was they wanted a place that they could, they labeled it as a tiny home. And they also wanted it such that they could take it out of there in an emergency if they wanted.
That's correct. I have followed
So
up
it's
with
not
them.
permanent.
Well, that's correct. What they were wanting is to be allowed to keep it on the wheels, because where they want to establish it on their property is in the floodplain. And the building department will allow them to keep it in the floodplain if it's on wheels. But the town's regulations on floodplains require that structures be built with a permanent foundation above the flood elevation. So I have explained to the Meguiaries that so right now the code doesn't allow their tiny home to be established on wheels or not on wheels, because it's considered a manufactured home. If manufactured homes are allowed, then the Meguiaries would be allowed to establish their tiny home on their property if they remove the wheels. They would still, because of their specific situation in the floodplain, they would still need to meet the floodplain regulations.
Trustees, I'm kind of wondering, I'm thinking maybe, unfortunately for McGarry's table, this particular item, I want to have a discussion with the attorney. I don't agree with what I'm hearing.
I have another question, trustee Walker here. Did you, in your analysis, make any consideration for devaluation of real estate properties and neighboring properties by the addition of a tiny home or mobile home or whatever we decide to call it?
We did not. We are trying to establish a viable way for property owners to establish an accessory dwelling unit on their property if they wish. Right now, the only accessory dwelling unit type of structure would be built from a stick build, like with a foundation, framing, and for an ADU, that's generally not affordable for people who want to establish an ADU on their properties.
Thank you. I do think it's important, though, that we make decisions in our rezoning and our muni code that protects the individual's real estate value and property. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, trustees, any other questions, comments, public? Any other questions, comments, both in-house and online? I think I see one hand up. Yeah, go ahead. It's a public hearing.
Well, I know that one thing that the whole nation is trying to do is to provide affordable housing. This is becoming more and more of even a legal issue. But just as a matter of history, and I'm not trying to disagree with your decisions, but just for fun, I'd like to tell you that the two cabins that my great-grandfather built on Colorado Street, if you go up Illinois and turn left on Colorado, they're both on the same lot. The second house, well, first one is bigger than the little one, and they're on the same lot. And the second one was what we would consider an accessory dwelling now. That was where all the boys slept. It's named Grumble Knot. They could cook, but and all that, they had an outhouse at the time. And then the other house that I own across the street from it at 6830 Colorado was actually designed to be a fishing shack at Gas Lake in Newton, Kansas, where I grew up. And the fellow that bought that lot when I was 10 years old trucked in all of those materials and put up the same thing. It was a manufactured home in 1947. And it's stable. It's 780 square feet. It's very small, but it's enough. And, you know, and some of our restrictions that we have in our code that Julie was explaining, there are restrictions about the size of the lot. We couldn't do that today on our tiny lot. You know, it's just, I don't know what we'll do with it, but just for your information, these new things that are being built are very attractive. And if they're not bothering someone, I don't think it would decrease anybody's property values either. And I don't think that should be in consideration. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, both in the audience or online? Okay, we got one in the house.
Lisa Bonnell, 10691 Illinois Avenue. Julie, we did not get into the manufactured home definition at our meeting. And I would agree with Mayor Dixon. Maybe we should discuss that a little bit more before bringing it to a vote with the trustees. And thanks for preparing it. And I'm so glad you brought it up.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other comments, questions, trustees? Okay, I have 7:57. We will close the public hearing. And I'm going to go ahead and do a motion. I'm going to go ahead and move that we table ordinance 2024-03 until we can have some further discussions with the town attorney and maybe take it back to planning commission.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We table ordinance 2024-03. All in favor, say aye.
Discussion, please.
Oh, okay, hang on. Let's hold off with the vote. Have a discussion, sorry.
Would you consider amending that motion to referring it back to PC? They've already expressed a willingness to.
That was part of my motion.
Oh, forgive me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
That was the intent. I don't know if it came across that way, but that was the intent. So, okay, it's been moved and seconded that we table ordinance 2024-03. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, our next item is item 6F. Ordinance 2024-04, amending sections 1251 and 1255 to establish a separate notice process for legislative rezonings. And I have 7:59. We'll go ahead and enter into public hearing on that one.
Thank you, Mayor. Brief discussion on this ordinance before public input. Ordinance 2024-04 has been recommended and drafted by the town attorney. This was drafted by Jeff Parker. Back in December 2022, the land use code was adopted, adjusting the town zoning districts. Recently, the official zoning map was updated, and we were preparing it for adoption, which requires a public hearing. We sent that notice to the paper, and then we were advised by Attorney Flanagan that we also needed to mail notifications to individual property owners and post notices on individual properties. When we followed up with Austin regarding, or Attorney Flanagan regarding the burden of having to mail and post notices for every single property in town, since the map, the new zoning map pretty much affects the entire town. Attorney Parker suggested that we amend the notice requirements for legislative zoning separate from how quasi-judicial rezonings currently are noticed. So his suggestion was to require only publication in the newspaper for a legislative rezoning and to leave in place the quasi-judicial rezoning requirements that include newspaper mail notices and posted notice requirements. This is a table that shows the existing zoning requirements or a regular zoning or a zoning to PUD. And you can see that they require published, mailed, and posted notices. The bottom line item there would be an addition to this, to the land use code, to this table in land use code for a legislative rezoning that would require only published notifications. If this ordinance is passed, it would be published by title. 30 days after that, it would become effective. And then the town would be able to adopt the official zoning map with publication to the newspaper only. Planning Commission recommended approval of this on November 12th. I'll take questions.
So this is basically just to keep us out of having to drop signs in every yard, right?
And mail a letter to every single property, yes.
Another question, if as part of this rezoning, say there's something that needs to go from residential to mixed, that would require the traditional notification, correct?
Yes, it would. There, if you look, check in the packet, I did not include this in my slide, but there is a definition of a legislative rezoning that describes it as being in relation to a code update, though that would be the only circumstance in which this separate notification process would apply.
Okay, trustees, questions, comments? We'll go to the audience. Go ahead.
Thank you. I know already that you're going to keep this for a lot more consideration probably, but I think we need a lot more public discussion about this. I believe in the town understanding exactly what properties should be used for, even if it's a big one or whatever. I've seen the map. Most people have not. And I just don't like government sneaking up on individuals, and that's kind of the way I feel about it, just personally. I'm a member of the Planning Commission, but we have a very small town. And I feel like if we had a decent communication system with all of our citizens, whether email, something like that, that with our modern technology, we ought to be able to let everybody know. They don't come to these meetings and they don't read the newspapers. Announcements like that. And that is a big ask, in my opinion. Zoning can be misused. Thank you.
Okay, other members of the audience? Anyone on Zoom?
Not seeing anything coming in from Zoom.
Okay, trustees, before I take us out of public hearing. Okay, I have 8:04. We're closing the public hearing on this, and we'll move on to trustee discussion, motions, votes. So trustees, do you have any discussion?
Yes, sir. Just so I understand this correctly, we're attempting to publish a zoning map for official use.
This feeds into publishing the zoning map. Right now, we would have to, basically, we'd have to put a sign up in every yard.
Exactly what
Yeah.
was leading to. And this is just relieving the town, the burden of what's already enacted.
Correct. The zoning came into effect with our new land use code.
Yeah, and I just wanted you to hear that part. This portion has already been enacted by the land use code. the land use code, if I understand this correctly, is generating a map of the rezoning.
The results of the land use code adoption created zones that are almost, some of them, a change in label in some cases, and in other cases, not quite so much. But it basically just takes the zones we had in town and aligns them with the new land use code definitions.
It effectively renames them. So it used to be public space or public land. Now it's open space.
Yeah.
And was R1, was that label also changed?
We have an R1.
Pardon me, what?
Yeah, I've got it here. Hang on. Okay, so the zones that are in the new land use code is R1, which is low density residential, R2, which is medium density residential, MX1, which is mixed use, O, which is open space, PUD, which is planned unit development, DV-O, which is a downtown village overlay, which people can apply if they want, and HP-0, which is a historic overlay, which people can apply if they want.
So how would I know if my residence has changed labels?
If it's, okay, all the labels have changed. That's what you call like a legislative change. All the labels change. There's the, is that the new map? Okay. And so before we had a definition that I believe was broken down by size of lot. And so through consultation with the attorneys and through the whole process, they said, yeah, it'd probably be better to go low density and high density. It's a little undefined, but it's a little undefined on purpose. Right now, you were R1, you're still R1. Someone who might have been R2 might be moving to an R1 condition, but it's still residential. Now, if we go residential to mixed or mixed to residential, then we probably, that's where I was saying we need to do the regular posting.
Yes.
Confusing.
No, I'm following you. I just want to make sure that this legislative category is necessary in order to, but you're also telling me that no zoning was changed, just the label?
Effectively, yes, we've changed the label.
I don't know about that word effectively.
Yeah, because, there's, like say, for me, I think linear, so bear with me. But yeah, effectively, we just basically changed the label. You're still residential.
You're still using effectively.
I have to, otherwise I explode.
It is either it is or it's not.
It is a label change.
And Julie, correct me if I'm wrong. When we were investigating this with town legal, we thought, well, most of the town is R1. It stayed R1. So is it going to be this big of an impact? And the advice that we got from legal is that through the adoption of the new code, some of the dimensional standards of residential lots had changed, and that's what triggered requiring us to post on every single property.
Well, I think any property that had a change ought to be notified. How do we accomplish that?
That'd be through our normal process, though. We'd have to post the signs, publish, and send out the notification to anyone around that area. So if, there are two properties that I'm aware of that are currently zoned residential that need to go mixed. Those properties will absolutely have to have what I might say is the normal notification, where you get the signs up, they notify everyone.
And this
around them.
notification is a notice of rezoning.
Yeah.
So they can have every legal right to object to it.
Yes.
But all of those properties that aren't being changed in any way, we're trying to look for, to unburden ourselves from those being notified.
Yes, correct.
So Mayor, a point of clarity. So legislative rezoning, whenever the zoning map is to be amended incidental to or as part of a general revision of this code. You were just talking about two specific examples where mixed zoning is now going to be their new designation. And is it not then incidental? Is it not a legislative cause?
Those two examples, I didn't say the specific examples, but those two would have to go through, again, that's not legislative in my opinion. Those are, they would need to change from like a residential zoning to a mixed, which is more like our business. But that'll have to be done. We'll have to do that as regular postings and notifications.
So just for clarity for myself. So there are properties that are being rezoned somewhat consequential to the code change, but not fully. And so that's why there's these two special cases.
The legislative piece would be for like just the residential.
Okay.
So we don't have to send out all the notices, post a lot of signs. The ones that are not, the ones that are like changing from residential to mixed, those kind of really are not legislative changes. Those are more along the lines of you know, if we were under the old zoning map.
It doesn't seem that this is conditional for R1 only.
It could also apply to R2.
Mr. Mayor, who's going to be responsible for delineating the properties that are rezoning or facing rezoning and those that remain the same?
I think that would be largely our staff. They can bring it, you can bring it to us and say, okay, here's the ones that are likely going to have to get rezoned and what I call the normal process. Could you put up the zoning map again? I can't remember if the latest zoning map actually has it or not.
Sure thing. There's a few things going on here. I actually have a question for Julie that might be pertinent to the discussion right now. Julie, what recourse do residents have at this point? Like, what can they really do when they receive this notice, since we've already adopted the land use code and we're just modifying the map to reflect the changes that have already been adopted? So we noticed the land use code changes. We did public hearings and we adopted it. I don't think that feedback from the residents can undo that.
It's good.
Yeah, this is something we discussed at the Planning Commission, that the land use code has already been revised and adopted in December 2022. That occurred. And I wasn't here then, but I suspect that that was properly noticed and property owners had the ability to comment on the rezoning at that time.
Yes, please.
Julie, this is Trustee Walker. You've
Uh-huh.
heard board discussion. What are you hearing out of it? I think we got on two different tracks. One that this is already done, and the other is that we do need to post notices on some properties.
This is not something that we discussed with the attorney. The attorney feels that basically a rezoning by state statutes doesn't require mailed or posted notices anyway. So according to the attorney, notice in the newspaper for rezoning is adequate to meet state statutes. So it's up to the town to determine the additional effort they want to do to allow their citizens to have public comment or additional notification methods for a legislative rezoning. The legislative rezoning is something that happens along with the code amendment, which occurred in 2022.
So I know you're not an attorney, but in your general understanding, does a person now have a individual citizen in Green Mountain have any right to reject the reclassification that occurred under the adoption of the land LUC?
I don't know. I guess if they are presented with the old zoning map and the new zoning map, and they see that their property was R1 with the previous label, which I don't remember what it was, and the previous code, I really don't know, because there's no old R1 that they can remain anymore. Those zoning districts are gone now.
Thank you. That actually helps me for my
Yeah.
next step. So
I just took a closer look at the map, and it doesn't look like we're doing any kind of like residential to mixed or mixed to residential off of this particular exercise. We'd have to do that in separately. So in other words, if it was residential before, it's residential now.
A map is a little bit too broad of a stroke for me to impose on the whole town without more information.
Okay, do we have any, we're still in public hearing? Oh, no, wait a minute, I took us out of public hearing. Sorry about that. Trustees, any other additional questions or comments?
I'm going to move that we accept ordinance number 2024-04.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 2024-04, amending sections 1251 and 1255 of our municipal code. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed.
Hang on, okay. Ayes are 4, nays are typically.
I'm sorry, I come from a long history of everybody opposed, same sign.
Okay,
So
sorry.
nay.
Okay, so I need to do a quick roll call. I had an aye. You're in favor of the thing?
Yes.
I'm in favor. You're not? Trustee King, you're in favor? Okay, thank you. It's that passes 4-1.
Thank you, Julie.
Of course.
Okay, our next one is actually the zoning map.
Right.
And hang on, it's 8:19 and I will open the public hearing on that one.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a recommendation to the board to open and then continue the review and decision on the adoption of the zoning map. When we had the map prepared and we published it, establishing November 19th for Board of Trustees hearing and decision. And now we need to get that legislative zoning amendment adopted in order to be able to approve that zoning map without the mailed and posted notices. So the Planning Commission also reviewed this. They also have a hearing for the map adoption. They opened their hearing and recommended continuation to January 14th for their review and recommendation. And we are recommending that the board also continue the public hearing for decision until February 4th.
Okay, I heard 2 dates, January 14th, February 4th.
Right, January 14th is when the Planning Commission has continued their hearing.
Okay.
February 4th is the date that we're recommending the board continue their hearing and decision.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll open it up to our audience. Do we have any audience that would like to comment since it's a public hearing?
I'm not seeing anything coming in from the audience or from Zoom.
Okay. With that, it's 8:21. I'm going to go ahead and close. No, pardon me. Take that back. It's getting late. No, take that back. We have to, is that done in public hearing or outside?
So you will just make a motion to continue the public hearing to the February the 4th date. That's the correct date, Julie?
Correct.
And then we'll move on.
Yeah. And now is that motion, do I got to close the public hearing first and then make the motion, or can we make the motion in the public hearing?
You make it.
Or does it make any
open.
difference?
You leave it open.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll move that we continue our public hearing on the zoning map to February 4th, 2025. No, that's January was for the planning commission. February's for us.
Okay.
Yeah, so February 4th is what I'm moving to move the continuation of the public hearing to.
And the reason that that takes so long is because the ordinances do not become effective until 30 days after publication. So we'll have to publish the notice prior to being able to have that public hearing.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we keep the public hearing open on this item until February 4th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, well, we will then, since we don't close out that public hearing, this is weird, sorry. Move on to item 6H, which is another public hearing. It's 8:23. We will open the public hearing on consideration of the 2025 budget adoption. And again, it sounds like we will need on this one a continuance to December 3rd. So I'll go to the members of the audience first. If you'd like to comment. We'll go on Zoom.
For the members of the public, the budget revision has been posted to the town's website and it is under our budget section. It's not part of the agenda. Had some struggles getting it to be ADA compliant there, but it is posted on the budgets tab of our website.
Okay, we'll go to Zoom next.
Not seeing anything coming in from Zoom.
Okay, so it sounds like on this item, since we need to keep the public hearing open, I'll go ahead and move that we continue the public hearing on our 2025 budget adoption and to December 3rd, 2024. Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded that we continue the public hearing on our 2025 budget option to December 3rd. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next item, 6I, consideration of the Friends of U-Pass Trail Maintenance Agreement. Is this the same agreement we had last year?
This is the same agreement you had last year.
Okay. Trustees, any discussion on this item? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd like to move that we accept the Friends of U-Pass Trails agreement.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the Friends of UPass Trail Maintenance Agreement, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes. And we move on to item 6J, consideration of the PPRTA sixth amended and restated IGA. And I don't know if you guys were really aware of it, but it basically just they had passed some language earlier before that had the term supermajority vote, and that wasn't in the intergovernmental agreement. And so they have to revise the intergovernmental agreement to include the supermajority vote. And those would be for items that are, it's basically, think of El Paso County and Colorado Springs, if they do a joint venture and try to get funding, it's so they can actually do that and use RTA funds. And some of them may not be listed as A, they may be listed as B. That's why it requires what we're calling a supermajority vote of the board to actually approve that. Thank you. I know we've had more of these come through here lately than, yeah. But really, staff, are you under the same impression that I am on this?
Yeah,
Because
I was at the
definitely.
meeting, so.
And Rick Sonnenberg has prepared a memo there for you, the coordinator of the PPRTA. He has prepared a memo that's part of your packet that introduces that. Yes,
So this is the third time we've seen this. in-
not this, very.
Well, not, but a variation. Yeah, third variation.
We have our own attorney, the PPRTA has their own attorney, and we find these things out. Oh, yeah, we wanted this, and then the attorney comes back and says, oh, by the way, your language doesn't quite allow it. And yeah. So. Very complicated.
I move that we approve it as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the amended and restated IGA. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, moving on to our discussion items. 7A, and I couldn't remember if it was this board or the previous board, where we had some initial discussions with CSU. I've actually got a CSU property map here, and I think Bo may have it as well. A while back, we had made contact with them, and they said, hey, there's a opportunity for a revocable license for that one area right there. It's 150 foot by 100 foot, and where we could basically pay $10 and potentially have access. And so I wanted to bring that back today, because in between the first time we brought it up and now, they'd actually come back and said, oh no, we think we want to just do a lease. And I pushed back on that. They came back with the same thing they had originally. But it needs to be looked at, reviewed, and make sure everyone's okay with the terms and conditions that are in it. Or even conceptually, if you want to pursue it, it would be a handy thing to level out and have additional parking. We would have to rezone it because it's residential now. So yeah, it could also be used to maybe do some additional public works storage. So yeah, this is a discussion item. It's not to be voted on. I just kind of want to get a general feel from the board if you wanted to keep going down the path or pitch it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to remind you that my comment when this first came up was to get the input of the residents in that area,
Mhm.
because it is going to affect them.
Yeah, that would have to be part of the rezoning. we have to do that if we rezone it. So that would go out. and say,
Why
"Look,
even go to that if they object?
We could go ahead and send out notification and say, to the standard 150 foot. And say, hey, here, we're considering this. But yeah, I was just gonna bring it in front of the board and see, do you even want to continue going down this path or not? It's just a discussion item.
Trustee King makes a great point, but I do believe we should continue to pursue, the price is right, it looks like $10. And we should also continue the discussion of how we would use the property brainstorming and
Yeah, they did, there are, there's obviously conditions in it. It's their property. We'd have to be responsible for several things if we want to use it. But yeah, we can continue looking at it. We can send out notice to people in the area in the 150 foot range and say, hey, we're considering this. We're not really doing anything yet. And say, let us know.
Yeah, that would be my only condition. Would we get public input of the neighbors around there before we put any more time or money in it? Certainly, if I was living out there, I would not want, public works dump pile next to me or parking lot for that matter.
And there's things like we may have to put up fencing along one side or something like that. So there's different things to consider, but I just wanted to kind of get a feel for it.
How do we get a site visit? I'd like to know where it is so I can go out and look at it.
I can show you anytime. It's right off El Paso that goes out to Public Works. That's on down the road a little bit. There's one lot that's kind of nice looking, and then there's an overgrown lot. Well, that's CSU's. So. Okay, so yeah, we'll kind of keep following this and see what we want to do. Our next item is going back to a budget discussion. So we'll open up the discussion.
all right. So this gets back to trying to present some data relative to 6C, the renewal of the town manager employment contract. And we'd received a number of notifications from citizens, many pro and some against. And there was one that was very, very simple. It was just one paragraph handwritten that simply said they wanted to deny or recommend that we don't pursue renewal of the contract because we can't afford it. No data was presented. And so as a trustee trying to evaluate their consideration, I'm a scientist. I want to know where's, and so it's sent me down two paths. One was a path that was trying to consider what are other towns our size doing. And so I just randomly took the first 10 towns above us in population and the 10 below us, and started accessing public data, first getting demographic data from census.gov, also getting DOLA data, because on DOLA collects the budgets for every municipality as well as audit reports. So it's a lot of digging in. So I've spent dozens of hours looking at many individual towns. And, as a scientist, pursuing a data collection like this, you never know what you're going to come across, what's going to be supportive, what's not going to be supportive, what's going to be informative, superfluous. And it's been quite interesting what the findings have been. So a couple of just very high level things. I thought we were going to be uniquely old, and we're not. Many towns were founded in the same time period. I think the newest is 1915 out of those 20, the 10 above, the 10 below. The second is we're the only one that started off as a resort town. All the rest were either connected to mining, so they were, or a railroad camp, or just started off as a farming community. So we're quite unique in that regard, because when you start looking at the maps of those communities, we're different. We don't have a downtown, so to speak of. Almost all these towns, again, these are the 10 above us, 10 below us. They could have 500 people, and they have a grid downtown that we don't. And with that grid downtown comes shops. And so here's a really interesting one is Flagler. So if you're on I-70 heading to Kansas, as I know many of us are frequently for family, you're gonna come across Flagler, and it's just a little larger than us. It's a ranching farming community, and when you look at their downtown, they have an Ace Hardware, they have a bank, they have a grocery store, and I'm like, well, holy crud, how can a town of 600 support you know, all of this? And it's because there's a large extensive farm community surrounding that. And of course, revenues are much higher as a result of that. Within that 20, one is a casino town with 3 casinos. One is a 12-block area right in the middle of Metro Denver. And for some reason, I'm forgetting the history, but I believe it was a railroad town. Anyway, it's 12 blocks, and it has everything you would expect from a metro, 12-block metro area that you just carved out. We are very unique, and one thing that we definitely lack is an established downtown. That piece is clear. Another thing that's clear is we lack complexity compared to many of these towns. Most have responsibility for sewer, for water distribution, for a library. One actually makes money on hazardous waste disposal. Another has mining rights that it's leasing out. Many of so those with the complexities of having to provide sewer services, et cetera, those tend to be sustaining operations. So the sewer is a business within itself. But one little town, and I'm sorry I forget the name because I've looked through so many, 68% of their revenue was coming from water. It was shocking. It's very hard for us to compare ourselves to the neighbors of equal size and population. But I did that because one of the letters suggested that our administrative ratio was much, much bigger than Manitou's. And so I looked at Manitou, and of course, we've all been to Manitou, and it's busy all year, right? You even go there no matter what month. They've got a busy downtown. And so it turns out they've got $14 million just in, that's their general revenue, about $10 million in sales. We've had parking as a failed experiment here. Manitou makes $1 million a year just on parking. That would be our entire budget. If you just take Manitou, which has a population of approximately 4,500 people, divide it by their $14 million revenue, you come up with a revenue to resident ratio twice ours. It's a wealthy town. It's sort of like the Kuwait of Colorado, not because they have oil, but because they're small and they have a lot of money. It's phenomenal. And when you look at their budget, boy, is it a product of expertise. I mean, it's somewhere like 70 pages long. It's gorgeous. Consultants have done a lot of work. So I want to get back to the main question. The fundamental question of we can't afford it, okay? And where that data comes from, because I'm trying to find it, and being data driven, I'm very, very curious. And so, if you pass one down.
Thank you.
So what I did was I spent a lot of time on our own website, looking at budget reports, audit reports. And so this is an encapsulation. It's very simple, but I'm telling you, I'm sharing with you not only what year, but exactly what the data source is for each year that I'm offering you data. And so just going across the top, for 2020, we have actual numbers from the 2022 budget, from 21, from the 23 budget. For 22 and 23, those are projected numbers that come off the 24 audit report, and that was the best I could do. We've already talked about not having good numbers for 2024 yet. And so that's empty. And then I've added in the 25 figures based on what are the budget that's been presented to us in the version 2. So I took big categories. And if you just look across the top, sales tax, when we have actual numbers, we're in the most recent, in 21, 22, around 270. We're projected for in 23, quite lower. I'd be curious to know why that is. 25, we're not growing in that regard. I'd be curious. Our property taxes are increasing pretty steadily. The general fund revenue, again, is growing consistently. The total administrative cost, if you just look at 2020 through 2023, is basically flat, okay? In 2020, it was 227 million, rounding up. Then the next year, the same, 227 million. In 22, again, this was projected. It actually went down 10 million. I'm sorry, thank you. Thank you, 10,000. And then in 23 back up 3-ish thousand. Public safety, you can see in the next line a steady increase, but not significant. Trustee Ives was, during our private sessions, very concerned about how the pool had been neglected in years past. And so that's revealed in the 2020 and 2021 numbers, where there's commitment to the pool in 22 through 25. Public Works, again, where the commitment to finances are. Hold that and now look at the, what's below. And what I've done is take numbers from the audit reports. And so the net position unrestricted is what the mayor often talks about as our reserve fund. So when you go from 2018 to 22, and the reason I don't have the 20, anyway, that's the max numbers I could bring forward. It's growing. So that's the cumulative reserve fund labeled here, net position unrestricted, is growing. And I believe Bo's recently provided the mayor with the most recent reserve number, and it's over 500,000 at this point.
Yeah, I have November 18th from 2023 and corresponding numbers from November 18th, 2024. November 18th, 2023, our assets were 692,827 and change. Same printout from just yesterday, 837,237, 144,500 increase.
And then when you look at the last column there on the bottom, net position increase, we've been in the black every year that I could find an audit report, but those years represented there, that I could dig into the audit reports. And those increases are, the increases becoming more substantial each subsequent year. Here's the thing, when I look at this holistically, not only am I not seeing where we can't afford the town manager, but I'm also seeing where other services are increasing simultaneously. So it's not like the town manager is being paid for at the expense of, say, public works, because the funding for public works is increasing, or for public safety, because that funding is increasing simultaneously. So anyway, I'm open to data. I'm open to hearing challenges to this, but right now I cannot validate this simple assertion that continues to be made that we can't afford the town manager position. So that's my input. I appreciate any questions, comments.
Yeah, I found something similar when I went looking. I looked at budget versus actuals. That's my big thing. Some of you know, may have observed that I'm not as concerned with, our preliminary budgets basically that we set at the end of the year as I am with the actuals. And so in 2021, we had a budget in the red. This was our approved budget of 196,000. It was in the red. Our actuals for 2021 were 69,246 in the black. 2022.
So you're factoring in COVID money there that we got.
I'm just looking at actuals right now because, the reality is life happens. And things change. Yeah, life happens. Things change. We have positions that don't get filled or that may bump things up. We might, in 2023, we're probably going to get extra FEMA money, but things, yeah. So I'm just looking at data right now. The data for 2021, 196,000 in the red, and the actual was 69,246 in the black. For 2022, I found one number that said the budget was 106,543 in the red, but yet the actual was 25,129 in the black. 2023, the budget was 99,560. Unfortunately, we don't have audit numbers on that. We have to get the audit numbers, but again, I did have Bo run basically a balance sheet, statement of financial position is what it's called. November 18th, 2023, our assets, total current assets were $692,827. And November 18th, 2024, yesterday, they were $837,327.59. And even when you factor in the increase in liabilities, we still, at that same point in time, are almost $21,000 in the black. And so I'm not seeing the affordability issue either. No.
So how are we gonna buy equipment?
Well, right now you have $837,327 that looks like it's steadily increased over time. We could, with this funding, we could get a grader.
Then why don't we get a grader?
That would require an approval, a specific approval by the board to do that. But we need to approve the budgets in order to do that. And we also need to get the audit information back.
Right.
Because where I'm not seeing any issue with affordability right now, if our audited numbers start coming back where we're in the red, well then, yeah, then that to me is actuals that are saying, okay, we have a real problem.
I'm not saying there's a real problem, just saying that, looking around at equipment needs and equipment requests that we've got going on, these are equipment requests that have been hanging on for a while that haven't been fulfilled. There's always something else that appears to take precedent. There's projects that seem to linger that don't take precedent. We've got new grants and things and ways of spending money, but we've got old projects that just sit there that people look at and wonder how come we, as the responsible party, are taking care of that. A lot of times information doesn't come from you guys to us. You know, we're in the middle of budget things, and one of the notices we get is that we're hiring another person to do stuff. That's great, but we actually had to vote to do baseline. Now we're reducing baseline. There was no vote on that. So we just did it. We being you guys. So it feels like a lot of stuff's baked in that doesn't come this way. You're doing your job as a manager, and apparently some stuff we need to know, some stuff we don't need to know. Is that about right?
We could certainly do better on communications. Hiring of employees is certainly under the scope of the authority of your town manager.
Yeah, that's great, but there's some stuff that we have to vote on, like baseline is an entity that we're giving money to, but we had to vote on that.
I hear you. There was a contract involved and the board has to approve contracts on behalf of the town. I understand trustees Walker's question about, metrics on how we justify hiring a planner. But I can tell you, any work that our new planner does is saving the town. And I can show you the dollar amount difference hourly. So, without getting into the weeds.
Oh, I understand.
Any
basic
work we
numbers.
give her that's not going to baseline is a big savings to the town. And I may not have that exact number or metric, but this is sound math.
Oh, I can do math.
I'll show you.
Oh, I can understand simple math.
Right. So, I mean, if you
I'm
have,
just talking about.
if you have man hours and you have someone willing to do them for half the price or twice the price, I mean, that's a lateral savings. And that's how I can justify that. I feel good
that
doing
wasn't
that
the
for
point I was making at all. I understand simple math.
I didn't mean to insinuate that you didn't, and maybe I'm not understanding the point that you were making. I'm just clarifying that contracts are the purview of the board, and we try to follow statute and the town code.
And I understand
put
that
things
as
in front of
well.
you that need to
I'm
go in
talking
front of
about
the board.
information. And the way money gets spent, and we're in the process of spending money. Now, we're trying to get that lined out, and then we have another employee. Which is not our purview, it's the town manager's purview, as I've been informed.
So one thing that, has come forward as we've gone through work sessions and is there is a lot of frustration about roles and responsibilities. That's clear. And I have them myself. And I think that, I made this recommendation in one of the work sessions that this is on us. We need to start coordinating ourselves to be directing town manager, town staff in the ways that we want that fits the needs of the town. And I feel like we could do a better job in that direction. And I'd like to encourage us to coordinate ourselves so that we can do a better job. I think town staff would appreciate it. I think that
Do you know?
I do. I think that clarity of direction is something we all desire. And I certainly do.
That's all I got.
So, yeah, let me chime in. Look, this is not an emotional thing for me. This is black and white. Numbers don't lie. In a budget, in a budget, it's black and red, not black and white. Did I say something that was funny? What was that? I have a right to comment. Can somebody?
Audience, would you please refrain?
Thank you. So keep it simple. Deficit spending for 24. Deficit projection for 25. Need to make a change. I'm not prepared to raise taxes to make up the revenue loss, but we can control our spending. one last thing, as far as the, as well, you've got termed, unrestricted funds. You know, we should be, saving and collecting them at least 10% of our budget every year, because this may look like a lot of money, but we can't even replace a bridge that we need to. So it's in the scheme of running a town, it's not much money.
Yeah, the bridge is probably gonna run 4 to 5 mil if we do replacement and widening.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just trying to put it into perspective. It's not an excuse to run a deficit budget.
Other discussion? Okay, I'm gonna call a meeting for Thursday. 6 o'clock. Do an executive session and then a business item, hopefully. So, and if we bump someone out, we bump another organization out. Sorry. Okay, thank you. So, any additional correspondence? Are we done with that discussion?
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Okay. There is a final public comment. If anyone would like to comment. Okay. How about anyone on Zoom? Whoop. Looks like we got a commenter here.
Lisa Bonwell, 10691 Illinois Avenue. I, just listening to this whole discussion as a member of the public, I just want to thank Trustee Bell for doing hours and hours of work to at least investigate this. And I hope the other trustees are not dismissive of his efforts. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
And I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Different. On the manufactured homes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to bring to everyone's memory, those of you who were here in September of 2021, Sally Bush Community Building. Marshall was there, and one of the deputies was also there. These gentlemen were looking at setting up a tiny homes community in Chipeta Park. And so there was a lot of public input. Near riot, I think that if they had been given an opportunity, they would have eviscerated those two gentlemen. So these were community members from Cascade, Chipeta Park, Green Mountain Falls. Keep that in mind when we are looking at the manufactured homes within our town. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. That was definitely on our minds when we were initially going through the rewrite. So, did we have any other public comment on Zoom?
I don't.
Okay. Guess what? It is 8:59. We are adjourned. Long meeting.